Lucid. Upon my bedroom door at that time, there was a heavy metal screw, which had a funny habit of scaring the hell out of me whenever it fell out of the door hinge. It wouldn't come loose every single time someone opened the door. That would have been too easy. The screw would outlast the point at which I'd convinced myself that it wouldn't happen again, then clank. That was the sound that woke me up out of my sleep the night of the dream. Its telltale metallic thud on the hardwood below reverberated through my body, where I lay in bed, only half wrapped within my cocoon of blankets. I remember the sensation of my body tensing up upon hearing the sound, petrified. I wouldn't have dared to move a muscle, even if I thought I had the power to. My eyes remained closed, but I could tell that the candle I had lit before drifting off was still flickering on my desk. The orange flame imbued my eyelids with a not quite black quality of darkness. It's a bad habit of mine, admittedly, but 20 was definitely too old for a nightlight. There was no reason for me to have been as unnerved as I was, or at least, not that I could have detected at that moment. After all, the screw did have a habit of coming loose rather often, and although my roommate wasn't home that night, I knew that our front door, the only point of entry, had been locked before I went to bed. I knew this for a fact, because closing the door required my pushing it shut with all of my body weight in order to twist the lock into place. And I had set the alarm for 8:15 the following morning, preceding Sorrel's arrival, so as to let her in. It was an old building. Hence, the affordable rent for two perpetually broke students. Yet, for reasons unbeknownst to myself, I can still recall the sensation of every follicle of hair along the length of my body standing at attention as I lay there, listening. I practically held my breath in an attempt to figure out what it was that was getting under my skin, without having to actually open my eyes. The strands of hair on my pillow shifted like the sound of sand on hard stone as I turned my neck ever so slightly. Warm water gurgled through the exposed pipes that ran along the length of the wall at my feet, and the candle wick flickered and hissed as the flame began to die out. It was the sort of overwhelming quiet that felt oppressive, to an extent, heavy. Too heavy of a silence to be exuding from a single person. That's when I heard my heart pounding against my chest, and the soft whisper of what could only be feet shuffling across the floor. A shock crept down the length of my neck and spine as the sound inched closer and closer to my exposed body. From my door to the desk, until finally, the shuffling stopped just beside my pillow. I had always been rather good at determining whether someone across the room at a party or on the train was looking at me or not. Even when I couldn't see the person myself, there is a certain sense of pressure that you can feel once a pair of eyes are locked on you. An invisible sort of weight that makes the skin on the back of one's neck tingle. The flesh of mine that wasn't covered by my blankets was covered in goose bumps. My nerves were on fire, screaming at me to do something. At least open your eyes, I pleaded with myself. Eventually, I did. Steeling myself with a sharp inhale, I allowed the blue light of the evening tinged with the yellow rays from the streetlight beyond my window to seep in. It formed an image, composed almost entirely of various waves of shadow and sleep-induced blurs. As my fluttering eyelids settled into an open position, still blind against the kaleidoscopic blue and yellow darkness, I sensed a shifting of the weight upon my mattress. As I turned my head to face the direction of the pressure change, a soft whimper escaped my lips. My jaw locked in a grimace that felt as though it had never not been there. I remember seeing darkness and the glimpses of features within it. Features of a face, revealed only to the extent that I knew I could not see it all, as it goes with most unknowns. The teeth came first. The streetlight seepage glinted off of their saliva coating in the shadows. Small teeth like a child's and wide eyes that blinked very slowly. I had felt so thoroughly frightened in that moment that the fear itself seemed to escape me, replaced with a cold sense of intrigue and horrified wonder. There were hands, I realized, that were folded on the edge of my mattress just beside my pillow. I parted my lips to say something when the teeth suddenly leaned in closer. Eyelashes tickled the skin upon my damp forehead as my throat clicked in the dark. I wanted so badly to scream, but no sound ever came out. Those wide eyes examined me very closely in the dark, cocking to one side at a peculiar angle. I could have sworn that I even heard them blink. "Wait, you're not Lori," a soft voice murmured. When I opened my eyes next, it was to the sound of loud knocking at my front door as well as my phone's alarm. I hurried out of my bedroom in a heavy daze, nearly tripping over a glint of silver that skittered out from beneath my door as I passed by. The screw. I recall popping it back into the lopsided door hinge haphazardly and exchanging quick greetings with Sorrel as she hurried past me into our apartment to get ready for her shift at work. By the time she and I returned from our separate errands later that day, I had managed to convince myself that it was normal to experience that sort of thing. People all over the world experience episodes of sleep paralysis just like mine all the time. Waking up unable to move, seeing some figure in the room with you, feeling its weight upon your bed. It's easy to invalidate fears in the light of day. But even long after I moved out of that apartment, I rarely ever thought about what I had seen that night. It was a subconscious response born of necessity, I am sure. Well, this was all up until a few weeks ago. You see, I'm 25 now, and my old roommate Sorrel has since moved in with the person she had seen during the time of my dream experience. Whenever we pop into one another's city, we meet up to reminisce about the decrepit apartments we inhabited during our college careers, amongst other topics, over drinks. We weren't very far along at all into this particular session when I realized that Sorrel and I had never spoken about what happened to me that night. So, I began to tell her. I began with a screw, which elicited a deep laugh. I recounted how really quiet the room had felt as I lay there trying to listen for signs of what may have been watching me. I even described those eyes and teeth that had melted into the shadows, the glimpses of them I caught as they floated in the dark in front of my face. I then rambled on about how dreams like that are actually quite common, and how she ought not to worry about my sanity, because it only ever happened that once. I only stopped running my mouth once I noticed that Sorrel's had curdled into a frown of sorts. It was a strange expression I had never seen her wear before. Her eyes looked distant. It was only a few moments after I stopped talking that she met my gaze with an expression of regret. A deep furrow formed between her brows, and I leaned forward in my seat so as to encourage her to continue, to say whatever it was that she had remembered. There is still a part of me that wishes I hadn't. Sorrel inquired. This is probably going to sound stupid, but did it ask if your name was Lori? The soft couch we had been curled up on with our glasses of wine suddenly seemed a lot colder. I hugged the throw pillow on my lap closer to me, and Sorrel traced the stem of her glass with a trembling fingernail. I was just reminding myself to breathe when Sorrel placed a damp palm over my hand. I met her eyes and nodded my head. She nodded too. In that moment, we both realized we had dreamed about the same event. Or maybe, just maybe, it wasn't a dream at all.